Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the TES Valiant, watching the stars through the large front window. He had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 months now. It was quiet work, but someone had to make sure the trade routes stayed safe. His crew of 200 men and women were good people, all of them ready to fight if needed. The year was 2387, and humans had spread across 47 star systems. Each world was different. Some were farms that grew food for the whole empire. Others were factories that built ships and weapons. All of them were part of the Terran Empire, and all of them were free. Jake was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started ringing. His communications officer, Lieutenant Sam Brooks, turned around with wide eyes. "Captain, we have a massive ship coming out of hyperspace. It's bigger than anything I've ever seen." Jake set down his coffee cup and walked to the center of the bridge. "How big are we talking about, Sam?" "Sir, it's at least 50 times bigger than our ship." "Maybe more. I'm getting readings that don't make sense." Through the window, Jake could see a huge shadow blocking out the stars. The alien ship was enormous, shaped like a crystal mountain with lights running along its sides. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir, they're sending a message on all frequencies. They want to speak with someone in charge." Jake straightened his uniform. "Put them through." The main screen lit up, showing a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal. It was tall, maybe 10 feet, with glowing blue eyes and a voice that sounded like music and thunder mixed together. "I am Ambassador Zekthara of the Galaxy Council. You will listen to what I have to say, humans." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Morrison of the Terran Empire. What do you want?" The crystal being's eyes grew brighter. "Your species has broken the natural order. You have spread too fast, built too many weapons, and grown too strong. This cannot continue." "Says who?" Jake asked, crossing his arms. "The Galaxy Council has ruled this part of space for 10,000 years. We decide who can build what, who can go where, and who can live how. You humans have ignored our laws." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all watching, waiting to see what he would say. These were good people who had families on human worlds. They had worked hard to build their homes and their lives. "We never heard of your Galaxy Council before," Jake said. "And we don't follow laws we never agreed to." Ambassador Zekthara made a sound like breaking glass. "Your ignorance is not an excuse. The Council has decided. You will stop all expansion immediately. You will give us your biggest warships. You will pay tribute of 70% of everything you produce. You have 30 days to comply." The bridge went completely silent. Jake could hear his own heart beating. 70% of everything would mean starvation on some worlds, poverty on others. Giving up their warships would leave them defenseless. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked. "Then we will reduce your civilization to what it was before you learned to travel between stars. Your cities will burn, your ships will be destroyed, and your people will never leave their home planet again." The alien's image flickered and disappeared. The huge ship began to turn away, but before it left, dozens of smaller ships came out of it. They spread out in all directions, heading toward human colonies. Lieutenant Brooks was already working at his station. "Captain, I'm sending a message to Earth Command right away." "Admiral Carter needs to know about this," Jake nodded. "Send it with maximum priority. And get me a direct line to President Hayes if you can." While his crew worked, Jake stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there were human families living their lives, not knowing that aliens had just threatened to destroy everything they had built. Children were playing in parks, farmers were tending their crops, and engineers were building new ships to explore even more worlds. The Galaxy Council thought they could just show up and take it all away. They thought humans would be scared and give up without a fight. Jake smiled grimly. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 hours later, Jake received a message from Admiral Lisa Carter herself. She was in charge of the entire Terran defense fleet, and she looked angry. "Captain Morrison, I've received your report. I want you to return to Earth immediately for a full briefing." We're calling an emergency session of the Senate. Yes, ma'am, Jake replied. What are your orders regarding the alien scout ships? Watch them, but don't engage unless they attack first. We need to know what we're dealing with before we make our next move. Back on Earth, President Marcus Hayes was meeting with his advisors in the White House. The room was full of the most important people in the Terran Empire. Senators, generals, admirals, and scientists all crowded around a large table. Senator Kate Williams stood up, her face red with anger. Mr. President, no one threatens the human race and expects us to roll over. Our ancestors didn't fight their way to the stars just to surrender to the first aliens who try to push us around. Other senators nodded in agreement. Senator Bob Taylor from the colony world of New Boston spoke next. These aliens say they've been running things for 10,000 years? Well, they never ran Earth, and they sure don't run us now. Admiral Carter activated a holographic display showing the alien ship that Jake had encountered. Our preliminary analysis shows that their technology is advanced, but not impossible to fight. They rely on energy shields and beam weapons, both of which we have experience dealing with. Dr. Alex Rodriguez, the head of the Terran Advanced Research Division, cleared his throat. I've been studying the energy signatures from their ship. Their technology is old, maybe thousands of years old. It's efficient, but it's not innovative. They've been using the same designs for a very long time. President Hayes listened to everyone speak, then stood up slowly. 30 days, he said. They gave us 30 days to surrender everything our people have worked for. They want us to give up our freedom, our future, and our children's future. He looked around the room at each person. I don't know about all of you, but I didn't fight in the colonial wars just to hand over human independence to a bunch of crystal aliens who think they own the galaxy. The room erupted in cheers and applause. When it died down, President Hayes continued, We're going to prepare for war. Admiral Carter, I want every ship we have ready for battle. General Brooks, get the Marines equipped and deployed. Dr. Rodriguez, I want you to find out everything you can about their technology and how to beat it. As the meeting broke up, people hurried off to begin preparations. President Hayes stood alone for a moment, looking out the window at the city below. Somewhere in space, alien ships were watching human worlds, probably thinking that humans would give up without a fight. They were about to learn that humans don't give up. They never have, and they never will. The next morning, every human world was buzzing with activity. Factory workers came in early to start building new weapons. Shipyard crews worked day and night welding steel and installing engines. Even children helped by collecting scrap metal. That could be turned into armor plating. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center on Earth, watching dozens of screens showing the preparations. Ships were moving between worlds, carrying supplies and people where they were needed most. Her fleet of 300 warships was growing every day as new vessels came off the production lines. Admiral, called out Commander Steve Parker, walking up with a datapad in his hand. The stealth ship Tay's Shadow is ready for the reconnaissance mission, Lisa nodded. Good, I want you to get as close to their staging area as possible. We need to know what we're really facing. Steve saluted and headed toward the door. Yes, ma'am. We'll find out what these aliens are really made of. The Tay's Shadow was the newest type of human ship, built to be invisible to most sensors. It was small and fast, with special coating that absorbed energy instead of reflecting it. Steve had handpicked his crew of 25 for this dangerous mission. As the Shadow jumped into hyperspace, General Ryan Brooks was meeting with his Marine commanders on the military base at Luna Station. The room was full of tough men and women who had fought in battles across human space. The aliens think they can just walk onto our worlds and take over, Brooks said, pointing at a map showing human colonies. They're about to learn that human Marines don't give up their homes without a fight. Colonel Amy Davis, who commanded the garrison on New Texas, spoke up from the communication screen. General, we've been seeing more alien probe ships around our outer settlements. They're scanning everything, but they're not very good at hiding. What do you mean? Brooks asked. Their ships are easy to spot with our equipment. It's like they've never had to hide from anyone before. They just fly around in the open, taking pictures and measurements. Dr. Alex Rodriguez was having the same thoughts in his laboratory on Earth. He had been studying the energy readings from the alien ships for 2 weeks now, and what he found was surprising. They're not as advanced as they want us to think, he told his team of scientists. Their technology is old and they haven't changed it in centuries, maybe thousands of years. His assistant, Dr. Nancy Wilson, looked up from her computer. What does that mean for us? It means they've been coasting on their reputation. They probably haven't had a real fight in so long that they've forgotten how to adapt and improve. Rodriguez walked over to a display showing human weapon designs. Look at this. Our latest plasma cannon can fire continuously for 10 minutes. Their weapons are more efficient, but they can only fire short bursts because they're worried about overheating. Why would they limit themselves like that? Nancy asked. Because they've been in charge for so long that they prioritize not breaking their equipment over actually winning battles. We build our weapons to win fights, even if it means replacing them afterward. Meanwhile, Commander Steve Parker and the crew of the Shadow were approaching the alien staging area. They had been traveling for 5 days using long-range sensors to avoid detection. Commander, whispered Lieutenant Tony Garcia from the sensor station, I'm picking up massive energy signatures ahead. It looks like a whole fleet. Steve moved to look at the display. What he saw made his blood run cold. There were hundreds of alien ships, maybe thousands, all organized in perfect formations around a central command vessel that was even bigger than the one Captain Morrison had encountered. Get us closer, Steve ordered, but keep us hidden. I want detailed scans of everything. For the next 6 hours, the Shadow moved carefully through the alien fleet, recording everything. The crew was amazed by what they saw. The alien ships were huge and impressive, but they were also old. Some of them looked like they had been built centuries ago. Look at this, Garcia said quietly. Half of these ships have outdated armor plating, and their weapon systems are all the same design. No variation, no innovation? Steve nodded as he watched the alien crews through the ship's cameras. They moved slowly and followed the same routines over and over again. They're not soldiers, he realized. They're bureaucrats playing at being military. Back on Earth, President Hayes was meeting with Ambassador Helen Clark, who was in charge of diplomatic relations. She had been trying to contact other alien species to learn more about the Galaxy Council. Mr. President, Helen said, I've made contact with 3 different species that live near Council space. They're all afraid to talk openly, but they're giving me hints about the real situation. What kind of hints? The Council doesn't just rule by force. They rule by fear and by keeping everyone else from developing better technology. Any species that tries to advance gets crushed before they can become a threat. Hayes leaned back in his chair. So we're not the first ones they've tried to intimidate? No, sir. But according to my contacts, we might be the first ones with the military strength to actually fight back. Most species gave up as soon as the Council showed up. While these conversations were happening, Colonel Jack Turner was working on a secret project in a hidden facility beneath the mountains of Colorado. President Hayes had given him unlimited resources and told him to develop weapons that could give humanity an edge in the coming war. Colonel, said his chief engineer, Captain Linda Ross, the new plasma cores are ready for testing. But I have to warn you, they're running at 4 times normal power levels. Turner smiled grimly. Will they work? Oh, they'll work. The question is whether our ships can handle the energy output without melting. Then we build stronger ships. How long do we have before the 30-day deadline? 18 days, sir. Turner nodded. Then we'd better work fast. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out. On New Mars, factory workers were installing new armor on mining ships, turning them into makeshift warships. On Titan Station, engineers were building missile launchers that could fire 100 rockets at once. On Europa Base, pilots were training day and night to fly the new fighters that were coming off the assembly lines, but it was on the frontier world of Haven where the most important preparations were taking place. Captain Billy Rogers commanded the small defense force there, just 12 ships and 300 Marines. When he received the Council's ultimatum, he knew his world would probably be one of the first targets. "Listen up, people," he told his crews over the communication system. "We're outnumbered, outgunned, and the odds are against us. The aliens think we'll surrender as soon as they show up." He paused, looking out at the planet below where 50,000 human colonists lived and worked. "But they don't know us very well, do they? We came out here to build something new, something free, and we're not giving it up without a fight." His crews cheered over the radio. They began preparing their ships and weapons, knowing that in a few days they would face the most powerful military force in the galaxy. What they didn't know was that Commander Parker had just finished his reconnaissance mission and was racing back to Earth with information that would change everything. The Galaxy Council was powerful, but they had weaknesses that could be exploited. The countdown to war had begun. The 30 days were over. At exactly noon Earth time, the Galaxy Council ships appeared in 12 different human star systems. Their massive fleets came out of hyperspace like dark clouds, blocking out the stars with their enormous hulls. Captain Billy Rogers stood on the bridge of his flagship, the TES Defender, watching 200 alien ships take positions around his world of Haven. His 12 ships looked like toys compared to the massive Council fleet. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, checking weapons and preparing for battle. "Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Mary Foster, "the alien commander is sending us a message." "Put it on screen," Billy said. Straightening his uniform, the image that appeared showed a creature that looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. "I am High Admiral Vorthak of the Galaxy Council Fleet. You are Captain Rogers of this pathetic human defense force. You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy every ship and building on this world." Billy looked around at his crew. These were good people who had families living on Haven below. They had worked hard to build homes and farms on this world. Some of them had children who were probably watching the battle from their windows. "I received your message, Admiral," Billy said calmly. "I have a response for you. Speak quickly, human." "My patience is limited," Billy smiled. "This is Haven Defense Force. We've received your surrender demand and have a counteroffer." "Go to hell," the alien's eyes flashed brighter. "You dare insult the Galaxy Council, you will pay for your arrogance." "Maybe," Billy said, "but you'll pay first. All ships, attack now." The 12 human ships launched themselves at the alien fleet like angry hornets. Their plasma cannons lit up space with brilliant flashes of light. The aliens, expecting the humans to surrender, were caught completely off guard. The TES Defender, under Billy's command, dove straight at the alien flagship. Its weapons, modified with Dr. Rodriguez's new power cores, hit with 10 times the force the aliens expected. The Council ship's shields flickered and failed under the assault. How is this possible? High Admiral Vorthak screamed over the radio. "Your weapons are primitive." "Primitive and effective," Billy replied, as his ship fired another volley that tore a huge hole in the alien vessel's hull. The TES Ranger, commanded by Captain Pete Lewis, was using tactics that the aliens had never seen before. Instead of staying at long range like a civilized military force, Pete flew his ship directly at an alien cruiser and rammed it at full speed. The impact destroyed both ships, but it also created a gap in the alien formation that the other human ships could exploit. "These humans are insane," one alien captain broadcast on an open channel. "They're destroying their own ships to hurt us." At the same time, Admiral Lisa Carter was leading the main human fleet in a massive battle at Junction Point, the most important system in human space. 300 human ships faced off against 1,500 alien vessels in the largest space battle in galactic history. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," she broadcast to her fleet. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human freedom. Attack!" The human ships spread out in a formation the aliens didn't understand. Instead of staying together in neat lines like the Council forces, they scattered in all directions, attacking from every angle at once. The Chez Sovereign, Carter's flagship, led the charge against the alien command ship. Its new weapons, built by Colonel Turner's team, fired beams of energy so powerful that they cut through alien armor. Like it was made of paper. Dr. Rodriguez watched the battle from the bridge, monitoring the performance of his weapon modifications. "Admiral, the new plasma cores are working perfectly. We're getting 400% more power than standard weapons." "What about our ships?" Carter asked. "Can they handle the energy output?" "So far, so good. The new cooling systems are keeping everything stable." The aliens were in chaos. Their 1,000-year-old battle tactics assumed that enemies would fight honorably, staying at long range and exchanging shots in an orderly fashion. The humans ignored all the rules, diving in close and hitting hard before moving away to attack. Somewhere else, on the ground, General Ryan Brooks was fighting a different kind of battle. Council troops had landed on 3 human worlds, expecting to face primitive soldiers with basic weapons. Instead, they found Marines who had been trained in the deadliest combat techniques humanity had ever developed. Colonel Amy Davis led the defense of New Texas against an alien landing force. The Council soldiers were tall, graceful beings who moved like dancers and fought with energy weapons that fired precisely controlled bursts. The human Marines, on the other hand, fought like wild animals. They used explosives, automatic weapons, and tactics that seemed to have no pattern or logic. They hid in the ground, attacked from behind, and used the aliens' own honor against them. "These humans fight without honor," complained one alien commander over the radio. "They hide and strike from shadows like cowards." Amy smiled as she listened to the transmission. "Cowards who are winning," she said to her sergeant. "Keep hitting them from all sides. Don't give them time to organize." Back in space, the tide of battle was turning. The alien fleets, which had seemed so powerful and unstoppable, were falling apart under the human assault. Their ships were too big and slow to match human maneuverability, and their weapons were too weak to penetrate the new human armor. At Haven, Captain Billy Rogers had lost 8 of his 12 ships, but he had also destroyed 60 alien vessels. High Admiral Vorthak's flagship was burning and helpless, its crew evacuating in escape pods. "This is impossible," Vorthak broadcast. "Your species is primitive. You shouldn't be able to fight us like this." "You made a mistake," Billy replied as his remaining ships finished off the last alien cruisers. "You thought we were weak because we were new. You forgot that new species have to be tough to survive." At Junction Point, Admiral Carter's fleet had broken the alien formation completely. Enemy ships were fleeing in all directions, their commanders too scared to continue fighting. The mighty Galaxy Council fleet, which had ruled space for thousands of years, was running away from humans. "All ships pursue and destroy," Carter ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The human ships chased the fleeing aliens across the system, destroying any vessel that didn't surrender. Within 6 hours, the most powerful military force in the galaxy had been completely defeated by a species they had considered primitive. As the last alien ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying news of the disaster back to Council space, Carter stood on her bridge and smiled. The Galaxy Council had thought they could intimidate humanity into submission. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. The war was just beginning. 3 days after the Council's defeat, President Hayes called another emergency meeting. This time, the mood in the room was very different. Instead of fear and worry, there was anger and determination. "They came to our homes," President Hayes said, standing at the head of the table. "They threatened our families and tried to destroy everything we've built. Now it's our turn." Admiral Carter stood up, her uniform still showing scorch marks from the battle at Junction Point. "Mr. President, our fleet is ready for offensive operations. We have 400 ships operational and more coming online every day. What's our target?" Asked Senator Kate Williams. Carter activated the holographic display, showing a star map with alien territories marked in red. "The Zeta Reticuli system. It's the Council's main military headquarters. If we can take it, we'll cut the head off their command structure." Dr. Rodriguez raised his hand. "Admiral, I've been studying the wreckage from the battles. The Council's technology is even older than we thought. Some of their ships are thousands of years old, just refitted with new weapons. What does that mean for us? President Hayes asked. It means they've forgotten how to build new things. They've been so focused on maintaining their old equipment that they've stopped innovating entirely. We, on the other hand, improve our designs every year. Meanwhile, Commander Steve Parker was leading a very different kind of mission. His stealth ship, the Taze Shadow, was traveling through alien space, making contact with species that had been suppressed by the Council for centuries. His first stop was the Kepler system, home to a race called the Centauri. They looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and large eyes. Their leader, Prime Minister Jorok, met with Steve in secret. "Your people have done something amazing," Jorok said, his voice filled with wonder. "For 800 years, the Council has kept us from developing new technology. They said it was for our own good to maintain galactic peace." "What kind of restrictions did they put on you?" Steve asked. "We cannot build ships faster than light speed without Council permission. We cannot develop weapons stronger than basic plasma guns. We cannot even trade with other species without paying tribute to the Council." Steve smiled. "How would you like to change that? You mean fight back? But the Council is too powerful." "Not anymore. We just destroyed their main attack fleet, and they're not as strong as they pretend to be." Within hours, Jorok had contacted the leaders of 12 other suppressed species. The news of the Council's defeat spread like wildfire through the galaxy. Species that had been afraid for centuries suddenly saw hope. Captain Jenny Wright, now serving as a special diplomat, was having similar conversations throughout alien space. On the world of Vega Prime, she met with the Ashanti Republic, a group of bear-like creatures who had been forced to give up space travel entirely. "The Council told us that our ships were too dangerous," explained General Kofi, scratching his furry chin with massive claws. "They said our military technology threatened galactic stability." "What kind of technology?" Jenny asked. "We developed ships that could repair themselves during battle. The Council said this gave us an unfair advantage and made us too aggressive." Jenny laughed. "They were afraid of ships that could fix themselves? Our newest vessels can rebuild entire sections while fighting." The general's eyes widened. "Truly, and the Council allows this?" "The Council doesn't get a vote anymore. We make our own decisions." As word of human victory spread, more and more species began to openly rebel against Council rule. Supply convoys were attacked, Council administrators were forced to flee their posts, and entire star systems declared independence. Admiral Carter's fleet was now traveling toward the heart of Council space, but they weren't alone. Centauri fast attack ships flew alongside human cruisers. Ashanti repair vessels kept the fleet in perfect condition. A dozen other species had contributed ships and crews to the Liberation Force. The journey to Zeta Reticuli took 2 weeks. Along the way, they stopped at 17 different systems, all of them controlled by the Council. Each time, the pattern was the same. The local Council forces would send a surrender demand, expecting the rebels to give up. Instead, they found themselves facing an alliance that grew stronger with each victory. At the Proxima system, the Council had built a massive space station called Fortress Alpha. It was supposed to be impossible to attack, protected by shields that could stop any weapon and defended by automated systems that never missed. Admiral Carter studied the station through her ship's sensors. It was huge, easily 10 times bigger than any human space station, with weapons covering every surface. "It's impressive," she said to her tactical officer, Commander Don Miller. "But it's also a sitting target." "Ma'am? Look at those weapon placements. They're designed to fight enemies who attack slowly and carefully, following traditional siege tactics. What happens if we just charge straight at them?" Miller ran the calculations on his computer. The automated defenses would have trouble tracking fast-moving targets. If we hit them hard and fast, we might break through before they can respond effectively. That's exactly what we're going to do. The attack on Fortress Alpha became famous throughout the galaxy. Instead of the slow, careful approach that military doctrine recommended, The human-led Alliance fleet simply accelerated to maximum speed and attacked from all directions at once. The station's ancient defensive systems, designed thousands of years ago, couldn't handle the chaotic assault. Zentari ships darted between the weapon towers like angry insects, destroying turrets faster than they could be repaired. Ashanti vessels rammed through the outer shields, creating gaps that human ships could exploit. Within 3 hours, Fortress Alpha was burning wreckage. The Council garrison surrendered without further resistance, and thousands of prisoners from dozens of species were freed from the station's detention centers, but the real prize was the information they found in the station's computers. Dr. Rodriguez spent days going through the data files, and what he discovered changed everything. "Admiral," he said, calling Carter to his laboratory, "you need to see this. The Council isn't just old and set in their ways. They're actively afraid of technological progress." "What do you mean?" Rodriguez showed her files dating back thousands of years. Every time a species develops something new, the Council studies it and then bans it. Not because it's dangerous, but because it might threaten their control. So they've been holding back the entire galaxy for millennia. Look at this. The Zentari developed faster-than-light communication 800 years ago. The Council made them destroy the technology because it might allow species to coordinate against them. Carter felt anger building in her chest. They've kept everyone weak and stupid just to stay in power. That's right. And now that we've shown it's possible to fight back, the whole system is falling apart. As if to prove Rodriguez's point, reports began coming in from all over the galaxy. Council fleets were surrendering without a fight. Government officials were fleeing to their homeworlds. Species that had been oppressed for centuries were declaring independence and forming their own alliances. The Galaxy Council, which had ruled space for 10,000 years, was collapsing in a matter of weeks. And at the center of it all was a species they had tried to crush before it could become a threat. Admiral Carter looked out at the stars and smiled. The real war was just beginning, but this time humanity wouldn't be fighting alone. 6 months after the Galaxy Council's failed attack on humanity, the stars looked very different. Where once there had been rigid control and fear, now there was freedom and hope. Species that had been silent for thousands of years were building new ships, exploring new worlds, and making their own decisions. Admiral Lisa Carter, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood in the command center of Liberty Station, humanity's new headquarters in the former Council territory. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of different species working together, sharing technology and ideas that the Council had banned for centuries. "Fleet Admiral," called out Captain Jake Morrison, who now served as her Chief of Staff. "The representatives from the Galactic Defense Alliance are here for the meeting." Carter nodded and walked to the conference room. Inside, beings from 37 different species sat around a circular table. There were the Zentari with their silver skin, the bear-like Ashanti, the crystal-winged Vortons, and many others that humanity had helped free from Council rule. "Friends," Carter began, "6 months ago, most of our species had never met each other. The Council kept us apart, afraid that we might work together. Today, we're proving they were right to be afraid." Prime Minister Jorik of the Zentari stood up. "Fleet Admiral Carter, our people owe you a debt we can never repay. For 800 years we lived in fear. Now our children are learning to build ships that can travel between stars in minutes instead of days." General Kofi of the Ashanti Republic growled his agreement. "My engineers are working with human scientists to develop new armor that repairs itself during battle. The Council said such technology was too dangerous. They were only worried it was too dangerous for them." Dr. Alex Rodriguez, now the head of the Interspecies Research Council, activated a holographic display showing technological breakthroughs from across the Alliance. "In just 6 months, we've made advances that would have taken centuries under Council rule. Faster ships, better weapons, improved medical technology, and communication systems that work across the entire galaxy." But not everyone was happy with the new order. On the far edge of known space, the hegemony of Zephyr was preparing for war. They had been one of the founding members of the Galaxy Council and refused to accept that their 1,000-year reign was over. Supreme Commander Maltos, a creature that looked like a giant spider made of metal, stood before his war council in the fortress world of Zephyr Prime. His 8 legs clicked angrily on the metal floor as he spoke. "These humans think they can destroy 10,000 years of galactic order," he hissed through mechanical speakers. "They have turned the lesser species against us with promises of freedom and progress. This cannot be allowed." His chief scientist, Dr. Vexstar, approached with a datapad. "Supreme Commander, our weapons research is complete. We have developed plasma torpedoes specifically designed to penetrate human armor. Their ships will burn like candles in the void." "Excellent. How many ships do we have ready for the final assault?" 2,000 warships, all equipped with the new weapons? The humans may have defeated the old Council forces, but they have never faced the full might of the hegemony. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Marcus Hayes was dealing with the challenges of leading not just humanity, but an entire galactic alliance. His office was constantly busy with representatives from different worlds, all seeking advice or assistance with their new freedom. Ambassador Helen Clark entered his office with an urgent report. "Mr. President, our intelligence sources confirm that the Zephyr hegemony is massing a fleet for an attack on our core worlds. They blame us for the collapse of the Council." Hayes looked tired but determined. "How many ships are they bringing?" "At least 2,000, possibly more. And they've been developing new weapons specifically to fight us." "What does Admiral Carter recommend?" "She wants to meet them head-on with our full fleet. But, sir, we only have 800 ships ready for battle. Even with our allied forces, we'll be outnumbered 2-1. Hayes smiled grimly. "Helen, 6 months ago the Galaxy Council attacked us with odds of 200-1. How did that work out for them?" 2 weeks later, the Zephyr hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of human territory. Supreme Commander Maltos expected to find a scattered defense force that would quickly surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. Instead, he found Admiral Carter's combined fleet waiting for him in perfect formation. Human ships flew alongside Centauri cruisers, Ashanti battle platforms, and vessels from dozens of other species. The Alliance fleet was smaller, but it radiated confidence and unity. "This is Fleet Admiral Carter of the Terran Empire and the Galactic Defense Alliance," came the transmission. "You are entering sovereign space without permission. Turn around and leave, or we will destroy you." Maltos laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Foolish humans. You may have defeated the weak Council forces, but you face the true power of the galaxy now. Surrender, and we will allow your species to survive as slaves." "Counter offer," Carter replied. "Surrender now, and we'll let you live?" The battle that followed became known as the Liberation of Vega, even though it was fought an empty space between the stars. The Zephyr fleet attacked in traditional formations, using their new plasma torpedoes to overwhelm the Alliance defenses, but the Alliance had learned from every previous battle. Human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the heavy weapons, while Centauri vessels provided covering fire with their rapid-firing energy cannons. Ashanti repair ships kept damaged vessels fighting, and dozens of other species contributed their own unique advantages. Captain Pete Lewis, now commanding the new battleship TES Liberator, led a squadron of mixed human and alien ships straight through the center of the enemy formation. "All ships, follow my lead. We're going to show these metal spiders what real teamwork looks like." The tide of battle turned when Dr. Rodriguez's latest innovation proved its worth. Human ships equipped with adaptive shields were able to absorb the Zephyr plasma torpedoes and redirect the energy back at the attackers. The hegemony's secret weapons became their own destruction. Within hours, Supreme Commander Maltos was forced to order a retreat. His magnificent fleet, which was supposed to restore Council rule to the galaxy, was broken and scattered. Many Zephyr ships surrendered rather than face destruction. As the last enemy vessels fled into hyperspace, Admiral Carter broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. "Today marks the end of the old order," she said. No longer will any species live in fear of others. No longer will progress be forbidden or freedom denied. The Galaxy Council and its successor have fallen, and in their place we offer something better. She paused, looking out at the mixed fleet of ships around her flagship. We offer partnership instead of domination, growth instead of stagnation, and hope instead of fear. Any species that wants to join us in building a better future is welcome. Those who prefer the old ways of oppression will find that the galaxy has changed. On Earth, President Hayes watched the broadcast with satisfaction. 6 months ago, aliens had threatened to destroy human civilization. Instead, humanity had destroyed their empire and replaced it with something that gave every species a chance to grow and prosper. The stars belong to everyone now, and the future was brighter than ever before. The Galaxy Council's threats had failed completely, and the Terran Empire's response with power had freed an entire galaxy from thousands of years of oppression. Humanity had come to the stars seeking new worlds and found a galaxy in chains. Now those chains were broken forever.